Has been having a great season, a lot of hype around him. He's lived up to all the expectations, and this is probably his first major injury he's had to miss games for.
Richard, we were antsy because we thought you weren't going to make the show.
Game time decision.
No, let's be really honest. Like, he's nervous because look at the score. Look at the game. That's what he's stressed about. Is his team going to win? This is not selfishness.
No one is saying it's selfishness.
I'm just making that up. He's just mad he's not playing.
All right. Welcome to The Jump. I'm George Sedano, in for our fearless leader, Rachel Nichols. Today, I'm joined by a couple of NBA champs, Richard Jefferson and Matt Barnes. And coming up, Rick Carlisle called Zion a Shaq-type force of nature with a point guard skill set. Is that BS or real talk? The Hall of Famer Jackie Mack will join us to discuss that. But first, some big market teams have made some big moves over the weekend, and that caused NBA Twitter to go up in flames over the weekend with some hot takes. We'll start with the Nets because, of course, they're in the zone. Brought to you by AutoZone. Brooklyn is 17-3 in their last 20 games. And they've been adding pieces to the roster all season. After trading for James Harden, they've since picked up Blake Griffin on the buyout market. And over the weekend, the rich got richer as Brooklyn agreed to terms with LaMarcus Aldridge in the buyout market. So here's Nets guard Bruce Brown's reaction, finding all this out on Saturday.
To what's been happening with the team right now, and even more reinforcements coming from a player's perspective, from your perspective. What is that like for you? I know you're locked in on what the task at hand, but how wild is it with the way this roster is shaped out for you?
I mean, we're really good. I just found out that Aldridge is coming. I didn't really know. But yeah, we're really good. We're a talented team. We got to go out there and play hard every night. Teams are going to play try to play their best against us. We got to be ready every night.
All right, if you could read lips there, you could figure out what his reaction was to before he actually answered the question. By the way, Kevin Durant responded to fans upset about the Aldridge signing yesterday, writing, quote, "I knew y'all would be here crying and I smell blood in the water, so I'm here to fulfill the prophecy." Here's Blake Griffin on the fans' reaction today. Let's take a listen.
Man, it's kind of funny to me because for the last couple of years, all I've heard is how bad I am. And, you sign with this team, everybody's like, that's not fair. Like, you like, so it's just people say whatever they want. Like, people don't, I don't really put a whole lot of value in other people's opinions. I trust the people that I trust. If I don't go to you for advice, then I'm probably not going to take your criticism. So I have that circle of people, and I have that group of people that I trust, real basketball people. And that's who I listen to. I can't speak for LaMarcus. I don't know what people have been saying about him, but, that's how I felt when I came here. I was hearing how bad I was, and then now people care for some reason.
All right, we've got plenty to say. So, Richard, what does the Aldridge signing mean for the Nets in the East?
It means nothing. It means absolutely nothing. They were already better than everybody else, in my opinion. So all it did is widen the gap even further. So people that are upset, you have a right to be upset because, you might think Philly closed the gap, or maybe Milwaukee was a little bit closer because they got PJ Tucker. But ultimately, it just widened the gap from everybody else in the East.
Looks good on paper, great on paper. All the accolades this team has as individuals is incredible. My two concerns is obviously chemistry is important.
Yeah.
And they're putting all these pieces late in the season together. Obviously, your big three are going to carry that team. But the deficiency they were lacking from the beginning is defense, and that's still something they didn't address. So I think a lot of pressure is going to be on DeAndre Jordan and whether or not he can hold this defense down this season moving forward towards the playoffs.
I'm more with you, Matt. Surprising. I'm not with you, Richard, of course.
Not surprising.
Look, I'm with you. Look, I think their defense is better than most people think. We've seen games against the Clippers and Lakers where they've played good defense, okay? Right. However, LaMarcus Aldridge is not one of those guys that can help you on that end. And when he was the starter, you can roll your eyes and your neck all you want, but when he was the starter for 200-plus minutes with the Spurs, they were minus 15 and a half when he was on the floor.
And Blake Griffin didn't have a dunk for 2 years, and now all of a sudden he's dunking again. You would be surprised how well people play when they're happy and they're in a much better spot. So we want to talk about defense, then let's flip it and talk about their record versus the top teams and their last 20 games and how they've played. They've been absolutely dominant against all the teams above 500, so we can keep talking about it.
Richard, they're the best team in the East. We're not debating that part of it, like from a talent perspective, but I don't know if this signing, to Matt's point, is what they needed.
No, you don't need more weapons.
I just think they're stacking because you never know what the playoffs hold. This team has been in and out with injuries all season. So the more you can stack your roster with quality guys that have been there and performed, the better. But like I said, it's overkill on the offensive end. What are they going to be able to do on the defensive end is my question.
The defensive end is, to your guys' point, the biggest concern because offensively, it's
everybody.
It's an abomination what they have on the offensive end. But let me tell people, and I'll answer Blake's question, and I'll answer. It's not so much that people are looking at this roster and saying that you can't do anything. Normally, those positions are not filled with minimum contracts.
Right.
PJ Tucker. Andre Drummond, LaMarcus Aldridge, and Blake Griffin are on contracts that are for a total of like $8 million. Right. That's where you're just like, oh, okay, this is
the game we're playing.
This is the game we're playing.
Right.
That's where it is. It's not that these guys can't do anything and that there's Blake Griffin from the old or LaMarcus Aldridge from old. But I would not be surprised if we saw an uptick in LaMarcus Aldridge's
Aldridge's?
Oh, for sure.
Of course. Aldridge's?
Yeah.
Is that?
I mean, we're way happier when you're not around. It's just me and Matt. You know what I'm saying? So we
the
get it.
energy is far better. So if Blake Griffin, that's funny.
That tickled me.
Okay.
That tickled me.
I just think that when these guys are healthy and happy, we saw with James Harden, we saw with Blake Griffin, and now would we be surprised to see LaMarcus Aldridge playing with a new type of energy? Maybe. No,
and I want to say one thing too, real quick, is we nagged James Harden for his defense for a long time. He's really out here playing defense right now. He's coming in with a fresh slate in Brooklyn, like Richard's point. He's happy. And he's playing on both ends and playing well on both ends. So I'm excited to see with this team. But like I said, one thing I think fans are underestimating is being able to put all this chemistry together. But when you have that many great players, it's probably not too hard.
Right, and you're asking a rookie coach. I know he has Mike D'Antoni, he has Jacques Vaughn on the staff, but you're asking a rookie coach to make all that happen, which is going to be fascinating. But there were more moves, obviously.
There were?
Let's move on. Yes, there were more moves.
Just think about that for a second. And now all of a sudden you have the Utah Jazz playing amazing basketball, the Denver Nuggets making moves and putting themselves in championship position. And then you have what the league has always had. A couple of villains, a couple of super teams. I hate to admit it to everybody, but the Lakers and the Celtics basically have 50% of all NBA championships. Like literally. And so when another team pops up and puts itself in position to win, it's refreshing for the league. And I'm not a guy that wanted to see KD leave OKC to join the 72-win Warriors. But you know what else? The league has to make sure that it guards itself against. While if we see the Nets and the Lakers, it's going to be the greatest thing that happened to the NBA. It's going to be so fantastic. But let me give you the undercurrent that people got to pay attention to. That James Harden and Blake Griffin both tanked it at their previous situation before they got to this one. So to the rest of the world, James Harden can say that he's MVP. And playing in Houston and playing for the Nets, James Harden is performing like an MVP. And you know like how much I love his game. But he dogged it in order to get what he wanted.
Yep.
It's funny when Blake Griffin goes to the Nets and he dunks his first basket. Like a lot of people think that's funny, right? That ain't funny to Pistons fans.
I know.
That ain't funny to Rockets fans. And you know who else that ain't gonna be funny to? The league office. When LaMarcus Aldridge is averaging 12 points with the Spurs, and then he comes out and he scores 20 points in his first game with the Nets, that's not good for the league. That is not good for the game. For players to basically tank to get what they want. But for the Nets, they're doing exactly what you would want a team to do. Get all of the equity you can and put yourself in a position to win multiple championships.
I mean, part of the chatter about this was the forming of a super team, and a lot of people had their eyes on KD, who did make that move to the Warriors, and, oh, he can't do it by himself. He needs to get these players. I don't understand the criticism. What is Sean Marks supposed to do except put the best basketball team together that he can? Why wouldn't KD want help to win a championship? Why wouldn't you want to be on a good team? I think that all criticism of Kevin Durant surrounding this and this weekend and him going back and forth on Twitter is unjust and unwarranted. If I'm Sean Marks or I'm a franchise, I'm trying to put together the best team to give myself the best chance because nothing is guaranteed. And we've seen this season how injuries can derail things. It's nice to have some insurance in place on your roster.
Well, I think you just conflicted two different points. I think LaMarcus Aldridge, Blake Griffin, at this point of their careers joining the Nets is vastly different from one of the best players in the world, Kevin Durant, joining the 73-win Warriors. And so, as the pickup basketball expert of the world, I want to ask you an important question. When you go play pickup ball, don't the two best players actually pick teams so that they don't play together?
Well, Jalen, when you go play pickup, don't you want to be on the best team so you can win the most games? It's that simple. It's the same in the NBA. Now, not only did the Nets sort of rearrange their roster, in the arms race, Los Angeles answered. They added none other than former Piston and former Cav, who was bought out, Andre Drummond. What does this signing mean for the Lakers in the West?
I'm glad you talked about the arms race because I got mine. Make sure you get yours. Shot one.
I saw you post the vaccine picture 2 days ago. You need to take a shower and take that Band-Aid off, my guy. You've had that Band-Aid on for like 48 hours, but continue about Andre Drummond.
It's a new Band-Aid, but I appreciate you. My arm still hurts. Here's the thing I want to say about Andre Drummond. I'm happy for him. And again, so here's a 35,000 square foot view. For the Lakers and the Nets, and for Andre Drummond, this is outstanding because they need the big fella. They need his bulk. They need his rebounding. They need his ball skills. They need his scoring. They're going to need him to win it all. And I'm happy he's in the position to do so. But you know what ain't good for the league? When the Thunder play and Al Horford is not playing the rest of the year. You know what ain't good for the league? When the Cavs were coming to town and Andre Drummond was on the roster and not playing. When Kevin Love is not playing. That's not good for the league. That is not good for the game. In 3, 2, 1, you're going to see Adam Silver, who I believe is the best commissioner in sports, figure a way to navigate teams who at this point of the season are only focused on saving or making money versus the balance of power in the league. When I buy a ticket, I should be getting fair value of what that roster could provide, not understanding that, Horford's not playing because we're going to save and wait till the offseason to move him. That can't be what the league becomes overall.
I think that's a good point. And you touched on something that is very important for this Lakers addition of Drummond is gives them a lot of versatility in the front court. They still have Gasol, who hasn't been great this year, but they have him. They have Drummond, who gives rebounding, rim protection, size, if you're going up against a Jokic. But then you also have Montrez, and you can have AD at the 5. You have LeBron. They've got this mix of 5 players that they got Morris. They've got this mix of players they can mix and match combinations to match up anything that an opposing team, an opposing series in the playoffs brings at them, which is why I think this is so important. And I don't know if you've looked recently, but they haven't been rebounding the ball that well, and that is something that Andre Drummond does best in the league, if not just one of the best in the league. Well, there's huge news in the NBA, huge news in college basketball, and of course, there's huge news in the NFL as well. They're expected to officially announce, although we all saw it coming, a 17-game schedule. Not everyone's excited about that, Mr. Rose, including Alvin Kamara.